You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode number 73. The issue of exam stress and why your teen being a little bit stressed might actually be a good thing and lead to an optimal exam performance. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey VIPs, I hope you're well. And if you are in full swing with exams right now with your teen, and that's likely anyone with a teen sitting their finals this year, or of course any end of year exam blocks coming up, then this episode is for you. I feel you, and I feel for the students. And so I'm coming to you with a message that I hope might be reassuring and maybe even a little bit refreshing, in conjunction with all of the articles and stories out there right now telling us how terrible it is that students are stressed about their exams at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm an advocate for exams. It doesn't mean that I'm all up for a ton of stress for teenagers. I totally understand the issues around mental health and the detrimental impacts that that can have. But I will say, when it comes to education and exams, I'm not totally for exams. I'm not totally against them, but we have them in our education system, and I want to help those students who are sitting them at the moment. And that, I know, might sound a little bit like a cop-out on my part, and in some ways it is. I have not done extensive research into the pros and cons of our education system. I am no expert in teenage mental health and the impact that our education system and assessment has on it, and I have not tried to come up with a better system. I honestly just don't feel like it's the best use of my time and my brain cells, and it's not where my greatest passion and interest and expertise is. Generally, I will say that I think that the more different pathways that we can have for students, the better. And I do see that growing at the moment so that they can find one that works for them and where they want to get to. And on that note, I will say this, that yes, exams can be stressful, but also so can many jobs and careers. So maybe the pressure and that whole experience is kind of part of the preparation and path for that career. But the fact is that where I can see that I can help with all of this is that I have experience and expertise in exam technique, in how exams work, how they're written, and how they're marked. And I see how students are prepping for them and performing in them. And I see, given all of that, how students could be doing both of those things more effectively, and bonus, doing it in a way that would also likely reduce the number of hours they're having to spend studying and potentially reduce their stress levels as well. And that's exactly what I shared on my recent Facebook Live. So I'm sharing it here too, and I hope that you find it helpful in some way during those exam blocks or other stressful study times. I am very excited to be with you here today because we are going to be talking about all things, in fact, not just exams, but specifically exam stress. And I'm hoping that I can share with you maybe a slightly alternative perspective to some of the ones that we see in, the media, and we tend to hear at this time of year about how stress is affecting students. Now, I want to preface the whole session of this and everything I'm going to talk about by saying, if there are situations if your teen is stressed or suffering from anxiety to such a level that it is detrimental to them and their health, then please, of course, go and seek professional help and support. I am not in any way a psychologist or a counselor or anyone that is qualified to be talking about it from a mental health perspective. I am purely going to be talking about exam stress in terms of what I have observed and my experience and some of the insights that I've I guess, collected along the way in a way that I hope is going to be helpful for at least some of you this evening. So welcome. I'm Katie Jones. If you are new to me, then I have over 17 years now experience in education. I started out being a high school teacher in the UK. I also started my external examiner work over in the UK as well, and have since moved to Australia and taught in multiple states and across multiple exam boards in Australia, and really now spend so much of my time helping and training and coaching students who want to be able to perform better in exams and assignments and essays and reports and that coursework element as well as the everyday classwork and homework, so that they essentially get maximum bang for buck for the effort that they're putting in, for the subject knowledge that they're learning, and the time and the energy and the effort that they are putting into their study. I want to make sure that they are getting the results that they are truly capable of and operating at a high level of confidence and therefore enjoyment in their study, so that they get their best possible grades and enjoy that journey along the way. And for me, what I have found is that for many students, that does not come from learning more and more and more subject knowledge. It comes from being able to put that knowledge across in the way that a task or an assignment or an essay question, or of course an exam question, which is what we're going to talk about more this evening, requires and demands. And so what I do is I teach students things like exam technique, the skills of application, being able to dissect a question, figure out what it's really asking, and really truly answer the question, so they get more marks and spend less time on things that aren't going to get them reward for effort. So that is me. What I want to share with you this evening, like I said, is maybe an alternative perspective and my perspective just personally on exam stress and what I'm hearing from students, what I'm hearing from parents, and hopefully give you a few tips that will help. So here's what I want to cover off on to start with. I would really like to share this. It's not even an idea, like it's a truth. I actually went and did a little bit of research on this topic as I was preparing for this session, just so I could sort of give you some of the background to this as well, rather than it just being me sort of sharing what I think and feel. And that is around the idea that I think a lot of students feel like if they're feeling stressed, if they're feeling nervous, if they're feeling anxious for exams, that this is a problem and it's a bad thing. And although it doesn't feel great, I really want to assure a lot of parents and students that feeling nervous, feeling anxious, and feeling stressed about their exams is A, completely normal, and B, here's the best news, can actually be beneficial. Now, before I get into that, let's just consider for a second, where does stress come from? What causes us to feel stressed? Now, because really, the general causes of stress are things like feeling out of control, having a lack of control over things. And when we think about it, that is definitely the case for exams, because students do not know what is going to be asked. They don't necessarily know what the questions are going to be on that paper. They don't know what topics are going to come up. There is also stress caused when we feel in a position of danger. Now, of course, there's not like danger to our lives, but for some students, they may feel like there's a danger they're not going to get the results that they want or they need. There's a danger of, let's say, failure, and I'm going to put it in inverted commas. And what that might then cause for them might be that feeling of embarrassment or disappointment. And of course, they're not great feelings either. And then, of course, there's also that feeling of just not being able to respond or deal with what is thrown at you. Okay, so that might be stress in the exam hall. Like, how do I deal with this question? And feeling maybe confused or out of their depth. That's going to cause stress as well. So there's all these things that theoretically cause stress and absolutely are the case when it comes to exams, and especially external exams. So it's no wonder that we have those feelings of stress crop up. So then what do we do about that? It doesn't feel great, but if we acknowledge that this is totally normal and natural, and like I said, can actually be helpful, this can be something that's helpful to remember. So here's what I want to share with you. You know, I like to give you my little cards on these sessions. So moderate levels of stress okay, can actually be beneficial. If we have zero stress, we don't get these benefits. If we have obviously extreme stress, that is going to have a negative consequence and be detrimental. So we definitely don't want that. But moderate levels of stress can actually mean, and actually do mean, that our focus increases, our alertness increases, our energy is raised, and even, this is the part I didn't know, and I found this out when I went and did a little bit of research, also our memory is improved, our recall is improved, and even the information we can put into our memory, there's probably a better word than that, consigned to our memory during revision is improved. So even if we're a little bit stressed in the lead up to exams, these can be the impacts or the results or the outcomes of that stress. This is what is happening when we are stressed. Now, when we think about it, although there are lots of things with exams that therefore lead to us feeling stressed, as we've just acknowledged, it actually makes sense, doesn't it, that all of these things are great for us in an exam. So maybe there's actually a beneficial relationship happening for us. Now, I know it might not feel like that because it's not a great feeling, but maybe it's happening for us. Maybe having those things that lead to increased stress levels to a moderate level can actually be good, because we want more energy. We want to be alert. We want to be focused. We want to optimize our memory. So I wanted to share that with you, because these are things that are really needed for an optimal exam performance. If we're not alert, if we're not focused, if we don't have enough energy, and if our memory is not working well, that is not going to bode well for our exam performance. So an optimal exam performance actually happens when we're a bit stressed. And what I have actually even done is I printed off, this is something I found on my little travels around the internet. So I'm going to hold this up so you can really see it. Okay, you don't need to see all the small print. I've kind of simplified it a little bit. This is actually from the Harvard Business, it's an article from the Harvard Business Review. And I will actually put the link into the comments on this Facebook Live, so you can go check that out if you want. It might be interesting. You might even want to share it with your team. I'm not going to put it in now because I don't want you to click on it and leave me and lose the rest of this information. I'm going to put it in later for you. It's called I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. I've never actually studied this, but I thought it'd be really interesting to share. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson Law. Now, along the bottom, we've got stress. So this is increasing stress, but this is performance. And notice, as stress levels actually start to increase and become moderate, we have some stress, the performance levels actually go up. So what we really want is to think about, how can we keep your teen in this area? So yes, it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's not going to feel great, but actually their performance is at an optimal, at the peak for that exam. So I wanted to share that with you. So the balance now, the challenge now really is, how do we keep students in that optimal level of stress? Which I know sounds crazy. We always feel like we want to get rid of the stress. We want them to have no stress. We want them to be calm. And we think that calm creates focus, but actually it's not the case. So I want to share with you what I have found to be, like, how I've started to categorize over the many, many, many years of working with students, 3 things that cause stress, particularly for students for exams. Okay. And the first one is what I've just sort of termed pathway pressure. Now, what I mean by this is, if your teen is following a university pathway, then they're going to need to sit external exams. So what that means is they're going to be in that exam environment. They're going to be under time pressure. They're going to be in that, potentially sometimes for some students, overwhelming, large exam hall. And they're going to have things like the time pressure of the exam and the pressure of maybe they need, or maybe they want, certain results in order to move on to the next stage in that pathway. Now, if this is a very significant area of stress for your teen, then this is where it will be useful to obviously remind them and have them know that there are multiple pathways to get into all different careers. But if they want to have, maybe that most direct path, or maybe they have other goals in mind, maybe they want to get ducks, maybe they want to get a specific grade for a specific subject that they just really want, I don't think there's anything wrong with them wanting to go after some of those goals. And I really just want to be able to support them so they have the best chance of achieving that. As I said, as long as it is not being detrimental to their overall well-being. So that is one source of exam stress: the pathway pressure, the pressure of needing or wanting certain grades, and the pressure of actually being in that exam environment. And here's another thing I want to say on this. when we think about some of the career options or the pathways that students want to go down, it's very likely that in some of those jobs, in some of those careers, they are going to be in stressful situations and under pressure. So maybe this is another thing that can help, is to just know that maybe this is all part of building that experience, ready to be successful later on in that career. If they want to be, let's say, a vet or something medical, or in the legal profession, there are going to be times when they are operating, literally operating, maybe if they're a vet or a surgeon, or in a medical profession, they're going to be operating under pressure. Maybe there's going to be times when it's really critical that they get things right, that they put in the correct information, maybe on a legal document. So maybe this is all part of the steps and the preparation, and maybe this is all good in terms of the pathway of getting to where they want to be, even though it might not feel amazing at the time. So I wanted to mention that. The next one, second cause of exam stress, is the fear of the unknown. It's like we have this fear of, we don't know what's going to be on the paper, that we don't know what they're going to ask. I don't know what I should revise more. And this is where we want to know, but especially in external assessments and external exams, we can't know what they're actually going to ask about. What are we going to be tested on? And so I want you to have a think, because really what this is all about, I'm going to wrap up with this, is this idea of like, what's the thing that's causing your teen most stress if you feel like you want to bring down that stress level a little bit. And if it's fear of the unknown, like what are they going to ask about and how am I going to cover everything, then that's going to be around their subject knowledge. So that's the first part of the study success formula. And sometimes I have called it the exam success formula, because honestly, it is, if it's for study success, it's definitely for exam success, and vice versa. So knowledge plus application equals success. This is that knowledge part. This is, do they know their topics? If they're really concerned about, oh my goodness, what is going to come up? And please don't let them ask about that. If that's causing them stress, then the subject knowledge, either learning it fully, properly, or revising it, is the thing that they will want to work on. Okay, so that's a little action point, gives you something you can work on there. And then the third key cause of exam stress is the uncertainty. Now, this is a little bit different to fear of the unknown. This is when I'm in there and I'm reading the question, do I really get what the question is asking? Am I certain on what they want me to do in my answer or in my response? So what do they really want? What is the question really asking? And what's going to get marks? And what isn't going to get marks? A lot of the time, I often talk to students about what isn't needed in response. Like, this has been put in, but is it really needed? Is it getting any marks? Because this is where students often end up putting in information which might be factually correct, but isn't necessarily going to earn the marks, depending on how the question was worded and how the mark scheme is structured. That can save them a whole lot of time, especially if your teen is someone who runs out of time. That would be something that was definitely going to increase their stress levels if they feel like they never have enough time to get through the exam. But it comes down to this. It comes down to knowing, what is the question asking and what do I need to put in my response? And if they're already clear on that, then they won't waste time or words and energy on putting in things that aren't needed. So getting their confidence levels really good on this is really important. And this is the application part of the study success formula, or the exam success formula. Knowledge, what are they going to ask me about? Plus application. Can I break down what they're really asking? And do I know how to respond in a way that responds to the mark scheme? Okay, so these are the three key causes, or main causes, overarching causes, that I see happening in terms of exam stress for students. So what I would invite you to do is, if your teen is feeling ultra stressed, then I would be thinking, okay, or even having a conversation. Can we get into a conversation around what out of those three things is probably contributing or causing most of that stress? And then you can start to find an action step or a way to help address that. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found that helpful in some way, shape, or form, or just gave you a bit of an alternative perspective. The link to the Harvard Business Review article and other links that I mentioned are in the show notes of this episode. So go check those out, and also see the great questions that I got after that little session and that I responded to on the open Q&A on that Facebook Live, then go to the Rock Solid Study Facebook page and make sure when you're there to like and follow the page so you get updates on our next live and other events that I have coming up. And wherever you are and whenever your teen might be sitting exams, I am sending them lots of positivity and, dare I say it, a little bit, just the right amount of stress through the airwaves. Not really, just joking. Thanks so much for listening. Have a brilliant rest of your day, and I will meet you back here next week. Bye-bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.